the next to Bitcoin is Bitcoin. If somebody's trying to orange pill you, it's because they care about you. You could spend your entire life just learning about Bitcoin. You don't have to learn about other cryptos. The concept of Bitcoin, not crypto, is to focus on Bitcoin.
Welcome to the Bitcoin RX podcast. This is your host, Nurse Ralph. Today, I'm here to kick things off with Forrest Hutto from Bitcoin, not crypto. We're going to talk about Bitcoin and give you your weekly dose of orange pill so you don't die from fiat disease. My man, Forrest.
We all need
Welcome,
our medicine,
man.
right?
Exactly,
we all need our medicine.
Exactly. Thanks for being here, man. My first ever guest.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much, Ralph. I really appreciate the invite, and I'm excited to talk to you about all things Bitcoin and whatever ends up coming up.
Yep, I appreciate that, man. So let's go dive into it, man. So talk to us about like your life before Bitcoin before we start.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. My life before Bitcoin, I kind of grew up with a mentality that money was really not something we should strive for. We should try to be more, I don't know, more enjoying the moment, more living in the present. That money was a cause of a lot of problems in the world, and it is, fiat money is, but I didn't know why. I kind of just thought like there's the have and the have nots, and there's an injustice, there's an inequality. We should, we have so much great technology that we should all be able to kind of live more easily without poverty and these kind of things. And so within my own life, I purposefully would, travel, try to enjoy my life and not work very much. This was all prior to understanding Bitcoin. And, financially, that probably set me back a little bit. But, it also allowed me to focus on doing work that I felt passionate about, because with that mentality I had the mentality of, not doing something that I didn't want to do. So that moved me away from being an employee, from working for somebody else, and led me down the road of working for myself. So around the same time that I first got introduced to Bitcoin, I'd seen a little bit of Bitcoin stuff in 2012. But in 2016, I kind of got more introduced to it. A couple of my friends were into it. That was the same time that I started my own business. So, I was looking into, okay, how do I make money for myself? Money became a little bit more important in my life. And I thought, okay, well, my friends are making money from using Binance and trading crypto and all this. And so I, threw a couple bucks down on some stuff, some extra money I had, and traded some Bitcoin. And I look back at those trades, those buys and sells with, regret, because
I can relate.
And I think a lot of us can. And what I ended up doing was, instead of understanding deeply what Bitcoin was, or even really what crypto was, just kind of thinking, okay, this is some alternate digital currency thing that people can speculate on, which was what I was doing. I decided to take that money out of that and invest it into my business, invested into what I believe into myself. My business has done fine, but I think it would have been smarter to probably have just invested it in Bitcoin that whole time. I would have probably been way better off now, but I still was able to build my own business, work for myself, kind of at a level where I was able to do things I wanted to do, but always struggling to keep up with the pace of debasement, the cost of living. I live in Canada. Housing it's gone through just an extreme increase in the cost for rent or buying. And I was eventually able to buy something, probably like one of the cheapest properties in Canada. And that doubled in 3 years of me living there. And I was able to sell it. And when that happened, and prior to that, I came into a little bit of money through some inheritance as well. And that's what led me to Bitcoin. Was I came into some money and I started thinking, okay, how do I protect this money?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I started to learn about inflation and how inflation wasn't only just prices going up, but it also affects assets. So
Yeah.
I started researching, okay, well, what assets do well in an inflationary environment? Because I really understood that inflation was a constant thing. Like even what we realize now is they have a benchmark, right? The US, for instance, they
Yeah.
say
That 2%. Yeah.
2%. So if
Yeah.
that 2% is what they're aiming for, and
Hmm.
you start looking into some data, and you start to realize, okay, it's actually a lot higher than 2%. That's just what they aim for.
Yep.
So then you start to realize, okay, well, if that's a constant, and I'm a pretty risk averse person, actually. I'm very risk averse. Even with my business, it was all about,
Hmm.
I started a business that took very little capital, very little financial investment, and started really small. I never took on loans. I never did any
Hmm.
of that. I just bootstrapped and just
Yep.
grew organically. So I'm a very risk averse person. So even with that, I thought, okay, if I'm risk averse with my investing, what is something I can rely on? And what I could rely on is inflation continuing to happen. So
Yep.
then I wanted to find something that worked and grew with inflation. And that led me to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It led me through real estate, precious metals,
Yep.
stocks,
Yep.
and then to Bitcoin. And I just went deeper into that, listened to the Sailor series on Robert Breedlove, read the
Hmm.
Bitcoin Standard, listened from the back forward of the Bitcoin Audible podcast with Guy Swan. So it's just a
Yep.
history of crypto and Bitcoin,
Yeah.
just deep dive. And it just became obsessive. And that just led me to wanting to share share my research as well. As I researched, condense that and reiterate it myself. And that's
Yeah.
that's what I've been doing now.
That is interesting. It's interesting because you said that you've always like you always wanted to do something that like that you wanted to do, not just like you understood like the fiat game kind of. And I feel like most people nowadays are just doing things, not they're not working a job that makes them happy, but just a job that pays them enough to survive. So I feel like you kind of like you did what others don't have the guts to do, kind of. I don't know, am I getting that right? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I think
impressive.
you're right. Yeah, and that it was always my mentality. Like I grew up being like, in a hippie family on the west coast of
Yeah.
Canada, and it was that kind of that hippie mentality sort of like led me to be like, I want to live for the moment. I want to
Yep.
do what I want to do. I want to be
Yep.
free.
Mhm.
And I want to not have restraints. And then that mentality, it can go one or two ways. Like you can kind of,
Right.
there's a lot of hippie mentality people out there that just want to be given a free ride and
Mhm.
want to be supported by
Yeah.
everyone else, which
Yeah.
is I luckily did
Yeah.
not go down that road. I decided to go the other way, which was independence and maybe a little bit more like libertarian kind of
Mhm.
ideology mixed
Yep.
with that freedom. And there's a lot of crossover with all these things. And I've never really been able to just define myself into any sort of group. Politically, I've felt totally homeless.
Mhm.
All sorts of different, like I can't really define the type of person I am. And
Mhm.
because of that, that's allowed me to think independently, and be open-minded to ideas as complicated and as overlapping and complex as Bitcoin itself.
Yeah, I see. I see. And what was the business that you started, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so I started a filmmaking business,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
2016, documentary films, and
Yeah.
I've basically, I still, again, the concept was very low startup cost and
Mhm.
passive income.
Yeah.
Even reading things like Tim Ferriss is like 44-hour work week and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah. Yep.
just learning about passive income, which is not really a thing, but there's income. There's the idea of building products or building IP,
Mhm.
building something that pays you over time. So that's what I was doing with my films. And so
I
even
see.
still, I've reduced my business a lot and focus a lot more on Bitcoin stuff, but I
Yep.
still earn royalties, income, advertising from the films that I've created because I've created intellectual property that is
I
worth
see.
something. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see. I see.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Do you plan on going back to that at some point? Go back to filmmaking and
To some degree. So what
Yeah.
I plan to do now is again, so for the last 5 years, I've felt
Mhm.
kind of pigeonholed with the types of films I can make because I
Mhm.
found an audience that can
Mhm.
reliably make me income and I can survive from that. But it's been
Yeah.
something I haven't actually really enjoyed or has pushed me creatively. So throughout that
Yeah.
entire 5 years, I've thought, okay, how can I get someone else to do this? How can I manage this? How can I step away and do more creative work within filmmaking? Because it's still a passion of mine.
Yeah.
So now that I've found Bitcoin, it's become such a major focus of mine. I plan to integrate that. And because I've been able to replace my income with investing and the Bitcoin stuff, I've been able to now just, if I, what I want to do with my filmmaking is create Bitcoin centered films. So that's
Yep.
now what I'm
That's good.
creatively working on in that space with that business, and it just
Yeah.
allowing the other stuff to fade away because it's not what I'm interested in doing anymore.
Yep. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. 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 What was it that like when you first got into Bitcoin that um the first like what made it click for you? Was it like a specific person or like a specific book? Like I mean, I know not everybody's like immediately orange peel. I feel like people just kind of like, wait, is this real? Like, and then you kind of dive deeper into it. But like, what was it that kind of sparked that curiosity?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And it's such a hard thing to really
Yeah.
figure out the timeline because
Right. Right. Right.
there's so many things about Bitcoin that do click, but
Yeah.
each one of them builds onto it, and then each
Yeah.
one opens up a door that there's four more doors to go down. So,
Yeah.
I think listening to the Sailor series was really big for me because
Yeah.
it got me thinking about what money was and how money has progressed throughout history
Mhm.
and the like even like power projection and technology and how that's developed.
Yeah.
um and then it got me questioning, right? That's what I do now whenever I talk to anybody that I'm talking about Bitcoin with. I just ask them
Mhm.
questions. I don't even
Yeah.
tell them
That's
anything.
fair.
I
Yep.
just asked them
Yep.
questions because that's what that did to me was that was information. It wasn't asking me a question, but it made, as I interpreted it and learned about what money was, it began to ask questions of what is the system we have? What is fiat money?
Yeah.
Why is it fair? Why is it unfair? What's
Mhm.
wrong with it? Why do we have it? Who controls it? Who does it
Mhm.
benefit? Who does it not? Right. So it just began to trigger these questions within myself. And then that led me to just look up and research those topics, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and that's part of why I was drawn to documentary filmmaking was it's the aspect of it of research and investigation. And so
Yeah.
I'm that type of person. So again, when I learned about Bitcoin, just again research,
Mhm.
investigation deeply into
Mhm.
this, and just one thing leads to another. So I
Yeah.
think there was many things, but I think one of the big tipping points was spending that 8 hours, and I was renovating my RV at the time, just listening to Michael
Mhm.
Saylor and Robert
Yep.
Breedlove talk
Yep.
about money, talk about it in this esoteric, philosophical way, historical
Yeah.
way, and just one after another, just learning and questioning what money was.
Yes, yeah, no, it's such like it's like it feels like you can never stop learning. It just feels like it's like a forever education type of thing. Like every time I'm like, wait, oh, this makes sense. I'm done. Oh, wait, never mind. There's something else to discover. Oh, wait, never mind. Wait, what is this? It's like it's such an interesting topic. Like I don't know. I don't think I'll ever stop learning about it. It's just it's fascinating, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found like what has been like one of your the hardest part about learning Bitcoin? Has there ever been like a I don't know something that you feel like it's been tough throughout your Bitcoin journey, or I don't know like as far as like learning it or unlearning it, or I don't
Yeah,
know, or has it been flowing?
there's been a few things. I'm not I'm not a super like technical. I don't have a software background.
Right,
So
right.
like understanding the implications of what Bitcoin could do in the financial world is
Mhm.
easy for me. I can
Yeah.
understand that. I can project that into the future, its potential, but understanding some of the actual, like, how does this actually work? Like what is the code, and why does that matter? And
Yeah.
and in that too, some of the technical stuff with like learning lightning and learning about fediments and
Mhm.
like federated models of custodians on layer twos, like that was that really took a while for me to like start to wrap my head around. There's a few
Yeah.
concepts in there, even the concept of like soft war. I don't know if you know
Right,
Jason
right.
Lowry's.
Yeah, I've seen that, but I haven't read that book yet. The software book. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah,
Yes,
I
that's what
haven't
I'm
read it
talking
yet.
about.
That's on my list. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've read that, and again, it's just like there's these things that are there's things about the core of Bitcoin that
Mhm,
that are complicated, and that's like the technical aspects that for me
mhm.
that just because I don't speak that language, I haven't learned that language, it's hard for me.
Right.
And
Yep.
so there's that, but then there's all of these side things around it that are like more convoluted, like the software thesis, or more just esoteric and confusing. So like that stuff is
Right.
just hard to wrap your head around. Like, what is the consequence of using power projection through hash rates? Is
Right.
this something that replaces war? No,
Yep.
but it's something that complements it in this other way that's not physical, or so it's like
Mhm.
these are just theses. So there's some stuff
Yeah.
around like theses around Bitcoin that are
Yep.
um that have taken me a while to just like, okay, what is this person even talking about? Like, is
Yeah.
there any validity to this?
Yep.
And even still, it's just it's a projection of a possibility into the future. And even still, it just I don't fully know if there's any validity to it until it actually plays out. And I think
Right.
that's the case with a lot of stuff that is maybe more philosophical or theoretical around Bitcoin.
Right. That's fair. That's good enough. There is also the another thing that I've started looking into as far as like Bitcoin security. I don't know how much you know about it. The like time lock
Hmm.
for Bitcoins. I'm like, oh, this is like I didn't know about it until like just like maybe 1 or maybe 2 months ago. And I'm like, oh wow, this is fascinating. I mean, that's actually I feel like it's almost better than I don't know, a passphrase, or I don't know. If you don't need the Bitcoin for like a long time, I mean, a time lock seems pretty effective to keep yourself and your family safe, you know? So that's another thing that I don't know much about. I'm probably gonna try to learn more about it first. But I don't know,
Yeah.
there's so much about it. I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Yeah. Yes,
That's a
never.
great one there. That's something I'm also learning about. Like I
Yeah.
understand it, and there's easy ways to do it in a hot wallet, but you
Right.
also have to learn scripts,
Yep.
like Bitcoin scripts, if you want to do it in a better way.
Right.
So and again, yeah, so like one thing I've been focusing on because I do Bitcoin coaching is
Mhm.
learning all the aspects of Bitcoin inheritance, and time locks are
Oh yeah.
a great tool for Bitcoin
Yeah.
inheritance.
Oh yeah.
But again, that's a technical aspect that I'm not proficient on. So that's something again, yeah, that I'm also studying and trying to learn
Yeah.
more about time
Oh
locks for
yeah.
sure.
Oh yeah. I'm definitely when you do, please let me know because that's something I'm very very interested in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And for your YouTube channel, yeah, it says Bitcoin not crypto. Like when people ask you that, what do you usually tell them? Like like what where did that inspiration come from?
Yeah, so that's a saying within the crypto world.
Mhm,
And it's not because Bitcoin isn't a cryptocurrency.
mhm,
It's because it's directing people's attention to focus on Bitcoin and not crypto. Because crypto is all this other stuff that doesn't even, once you learn about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, you recognize that these are two separate baskets. That
yep,
cryptocurrency is a lot more similar to the fiat system.
yep,
There's usually somebody, well, there's definitely somebody that's creating these cryptos, and
mhm,
they benefit from it. There's the Cantillon effect within that ecosystem,
yep,
and there's the monetary policy can change at the whim of basically one figurehead for the vast majority of these crypto companies. A
yep,
lot of them are just straight up vaporware. So there's actually nothing underneath them that has any potential. A lot of them are scams. And
yep,
so the concept of Bitcoin, not crypto, is to focus on Bitcoin and to
mhm,
completely ignore crypto. And I think a really good way to represent this is if you look at the Ethereum or ETH chart priced in Bitcoin, you
mhm,
begin to understand that ETH has been marketing itself for so long and has been taking has taken a lot of market share and a lot of attention from Bitcoin in the early age, because a lot of Bitcoiners, they were open to, okay, well, ETH has smart contract, like we can use this other chain and not mess with Bitcoin, and we can experiment with ETH. We can figure things out. Maybe there's something to it, maybe there isn't, who knows? But it's taken a lot of attention away and a lot of capital, because that's the thing about Bitcoin as a technology, and it's a financial asset. So it's not like a technology like MySpace or Facebook. A lot of people say, oh, well, a better technology is going to come along, and that's what they're talking about, crypto at that point. But the thing is there's no cost for you to create a Facebook account while you have a MySpace account. Whereas if you hold your value in Bitcoin, and then a new shiny crypto token comes out, you cannot hold the same amount of value in Bitcoin if you want to buy that crypto coin. You have to sell some of your Bitcoin, which lowers your holdings. There's a real cost to diversification within financial instruments. So it's completely unlike other technologies in that way. It doesn't become replaced by these other technologies. And Andreas Antonopoulos said it the best: the next to Bitcoin is Bitcoin. So Bitcoin can be changed, but it's very difficult to change it. And as it's needed to, things can be updated and implemented. But because it's so difficult, then you realize and recognize it has the most security within its monetary policy and within what it is intrinsically. And that's what you need with money. Like, that's why nothing else, none of these other cryptos compare or compete with Bitcoin, is because the most important thing with money is security. It's so important to know that what you have is fixed and cannot be changed, cannot be taken. And that's the problem with all these cryptos, and the problem with all the fiat, right? The fiat, the denominator and the numerator of fiat is constantly changing. There's new monetary policy. It depends on what the Fed in the US does. It depends what the central bank in Canada does. It depends on who's loaning, what the regulations for small banks, it's just so many variables, and it makes that currency, it makes that money, if that's the bedrock of an economy, it makes it completely unstable. And that's why you see all these crashes constantly, is because of how unstable it is, and how it is the backbone of the economy. So we need something a lot more stable, and that's exactly what Bitcoin is. It has a fixed issuance, it has a max supply. It really, you should spend so much time. You could spend your entire life just learning about Bitcoin. You don't have to learn about other cryptos. That's what's interesting as well, right? Like, just focus on this thing. That's the meme of the laser eyes, right? It's laser focus. Bitcoin, not crypto. That's the concept there.
Oh yeah. Do you think eventually, I don't know what the market cap of the entire like crypto market is right now, but like, do you think eventually like all the money in the other cryptos will like eventually go into Bitcoin at some point? Or do you think like people will always find a way to make new, this coin or what, Lala coin or whatever? Do you think that's going to be a forever thing that, I don't know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of it will begin to migrate. I think a lot of the market cap of a lot of different assets are going to move into Bitcoin. But I think there's always going to be a market cap for real estate, for precious metals, for stocks. I think for bonds, a lot of that will go into Bitcoin, but those still serve their own purpose that are separate. So within crypto, there might be, and this isn't something that I personally speculate on, but there might be some other technology that doesn't suit Bitcoin. It shouldn't be adapted into Bitcoin on a layer 1 or a layer 2 or whatever. There might be some technologies that do get put into a layer 2 or layer 3 on Bitcoin, but there might be some that just are better suited on their own, and their market cap will be insignificant compared to what Bitcoins will be at that point and what it is currently. You look at any market cap of crypto versus Bitcoin, it's insignificant. But and that's because the problem they're trying to solve is much smaller in scope to the problem that Bitcoin can solve. So maybe it's smart contract capability. Like, verification of concert tickets. Maybe an NFT for a concert ticket makes sense. I don't know, and I don't care. It's not something I personally care enough
Yep.
about, or think that there's enough financial interest in the future that it makes sense to bet on one of these things or the other. I don't see any winners within there, and I don't care to speculate and gamble on who's going to be the winner. But there might be a
Right.
market for some of that.
Yep.
Some of that
That's
stuff.
fair. Yeah.
There might
Do
be.
you-
I just don't
yeah.
care about it.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Then does that mean that, do you see a future for like some of the tokens like Solana that they say, you know, I think they can create memes on there, or like XRP that they say, oh yeah, we're gonna use it for cross border or whatever. Do you see like these things got like a future, or it's like I mean, I know we both laser eyes, but like what do you say to those people that have like, you know, they're like, yeah man, you know, this coin this coin that, like
Yeah, I just think that I think the future that they have is a lot dimmer. It's a lot
Mhm.
harder to see that future. It's a
Yeah.
lot more likely that those will be replaced, like a MySpace to Facebook, because of the better technology within there.
Right. Yep.
Because they don't care about even Solana, right? Solana has
Mhm.
taken market share from ETH. It has not
Mhm.
taken market share from Bitcoin.
Right.
Not in any meaningful way. And the reason it's taken market share from ETH is ETH was in this middle ground of trying to be decentralized and trying to have smart contract capability and all of these functionality within it for meme coins and all of this. But what people recognize and realize is the meme coin traders, the people that interact in that ecosystem, they don't care about how decentralized the layer one is that they're printing a token on. They just want to rug somebody. That's the only use case for a meme coin, is to sell it to somebody and make some other money from it, some actual money, whether they put that into US dollars or whatever, but they extract value. It's a value extraction tool. That's what a meme coin is. So they don't care how decentralized the network is that they do that on. So Solana made it much easier for people to do that, much cheaper to do that, and that took market share from ETH. So if you want to rug somebody, you use Solana instead of ETH because it's easier. So I don't want to participate. That's the other thing too, is like Bitcoin is very ethical to me. It's very ethical. And Solana, you might say, okay, well, maybe there's a future use case because people will think of meme coins as collectibles. But within there's all of these people extracting value out of their audience, however they acquire that audience, by issuing these collectibles. And to me, that just there's people within there doing wash trading and pumping up prices and dumping on other people and having private chats with VC funding. And to me, all the ethics become just when you really look into it, it just becomes very unethical, and it becomes extremely risky because you don't have the information that anybody else, that other people might have within there. So I don't have an edge within there, and I don't have the drive to be unethical to extract value from anyone else. I would that's what's really beautiful about Bitcoin, is that there are a lot of win-wins within Bitcoin. That's why everybody within Bitcoin, they encourage other people to get into Bitcoin, not because they're looking for the price to go up so that they can sell to those people that they're trying to get into Bitcoin. It's just so that you're trying to save them from the fiat system. You're trying to say, here's a life raft, get on board. Let me help you. If somebody's trying to orange pill you, it's because they care about you. If somebody's trying to get you in on their meme coin, it might be because they're trying to use you as an exit liquidity. And XRP is the same. They minted all of their supply. I mean, it's the most transparent scam, maybe besides fiat. And
it's so obvious, and I'm like, how do people fall for this thing?
I don't know. And I think a lot of it is just, I mean, a lot of people are not financially educated, and then they get into this space and they say, wow, okay, I know a lot of these people are saying you can make money from buying this XRP thing, and it's only 20 cents or $2 or whatever. I'll buy a couple, whatever, right? So that's how they get into it. And they don't know what it is. They have no idea. It's the exact opposite of Bitcoin. And and again, if you're looking at ethics, if you care about that at all, XRP is the least ethical one out there, even
Yeah, oh
worse than
yeah.
Solana.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Like it's the thing about the ethical part of it is like the CBDC like portion of it that I'm like, I don't know if people just don't. I mean, I don't know if I don't understand it. I don't know if maybe I don't understand, but like the fact that they can be used as like some sort of like CBDC, that alone scares the living crap out of me. I'm like, I don't want a CBDC. Like, do y'all know what like people in power can do with a CBDC? I mean, I know they say, oh, they won't do that, but like, like when times get bad, sheesh. I
Yeah.
mean, we've kind of seen that in some of the third world countries, some of the African countries, and yeah, I don't know, man. XRP is. I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't want to batch on the XRP this bad right now. I guess.
Everything is good for Bitcoin. I just
Yeah.
listened to a woman who is into Bitcoin now. She's talking about Bitcoin, and the first thing she bought was XRP before
Yep.
she knew anything, and that led her down the road to Bitcoin. So everything's good
Yeah.
for Bitcoin.
Right. Right. Yeah.
The and like you said, there's these instances of control of capital. Even here in
Mhm.
Canada, the bank accounts of peaceful protesters got
Right.
frozen, and if
Yep.
you can't access your money, you can't drive to work, you can't fill up your car with gas, you can't feed your kids, you have to begin to rely on people. If you don't have people to rely on, you're
Mhm.
screwed. Like, it's worse than being in prison. At least they feed you in prison. Like, there's
Yeah.
possibility
Yeah.
of you not being able to eat
Yeah.
because your bank account's been frozen. It's a
Whew.
crazy thing to do. And
Damn.
so they already have some control over capital when you give them
Yeah.
your capital, when you put it in the banking system. with
Yeah.
with a digital currency, with a CBDC, it's always able to be controlled. And in fact, that's all it is. It's just more control over the same type of asset.
Right.
So that's what
Damn.
Ripple is designed. They've built it. They built a prototype, and hey, look at this CBDC we've built. We can do this for
Mm,
you. They're a
yeah.
consulting firm for central banks and nations around the world. That's their business model,
Yeah.
is a CBDC, which is the exact opposite of what Bitcoin is.
Yeah,
So
I know. Yeah, the freedom aspect of Bitcoin, I think people, I don't think people know that much about it yet. I think once people understand that, wow, this is really freedom money. This is not just like, oh, a number go up thing. This is like I can do what I want. Like, this is my own money. I can move away if something is not going well in my town or in my city. So I think people don't I don't think they are educated enough to know that part. And I guess that's where guys like me and you come in, where we have, a YouTube channel to kind of help educate others, I guess.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you kind of have to care about it, right? Like, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, people are undereducated about it because they haven't had their bank accounts frozen.
Yeah.
They transact. They don't even realize they're asking permission to use their own money.
Yep.
That money is also, not really theirs.
Yeah.
It was,
Yep.
so much stuff. They don't
Right.
know it. They don't care about
Yep.
it, and
Yep.
so there kind of needs to be that moment of, okay, something was messed up. And I think, a lot of stuff that happened in COVID probably woke people up, maybe gave them a
Hmm.
little bit of time off work to start
Yeah.
thinking about money, start looking at investing. That leads them down the number go up
Hmm.
entrance to Bitcoin. There's all sorts of, but it takes sort of a catalyst. It takes a
Yeah.
need to know. Even with my story, right? It was only when
Yeah.
I came into some money through inheritance
Hmm.
and then from selling my house that I started looking at Bitcoin, because I had a
Right.
need to know. Before
Yep.
that, I didn't
Yep.
care about freedom money. I always could use my debit card. I could use some cash wherever I went. It wasn't a
Yep.
problem.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
it's not a problem until it is a problem,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is all, projection into like a dystopian future, but entirely possible, and
Yeah.
and happening around the world in different jurisdictions. So,
Yep.
it's something to
Nah.
know about. It's maybe just, and better to be safe than sorry with that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's like I think the other thing is too, like the I think the number sometimes I feel like attracts people more towards these little coins, like where you see Bitcoin at like what I think today is at like what $90,000, something like that, and then you got XRP at like what is it? I don't even know,
Who
$1, $2
knows?
maybe. So like
Yeah.
it's like I think like how do you like go about like telling someone, hey, just because this is not this is just because this is cheap doesn't mean that it will benefit you in the future? Like, how do you like go about educating somebody about that? Like, you know?
It's a hard one. I think people
Yeah.
have to learn from their mistakes a little bit. They have to be
Yeah.
interested. Like, i- there is the technical side. You could explain, well, Bitcoin is divisible to 100 millionth. So just
Right.
you can buy any amount of it. You can buy, and it's denominated in sats. So I think as Bitcoin's price goes up, we'll start actually talking about Bitcoin in sats, in
Yep.
satoshis, in these divisible amounts that you can buy 10 of them for a penny at this point, right? So, XRP, you could buy one of them for $2 or whatever. You can buy, think about how many sats you could buy with that, right? So it's really like, if the nominal bias is such a problem, then maybe we do need to shift to talking about Bitcoin in satoshis.
Yep.
But I think also the other thing is just like, yeah, understanding, people need to maybe make mistakes every once in a while. They need to look at Bitcoin's price and think, oh, I've missed the boat. And then
Mhm.
you can just tell them, you haven't missed anything. 1%
Yep.
of people around the world own this,
Yep.
and maybe 10% of those people even know what they own.
Shit,
Have
even
have
less, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we're incredibly early to this
Yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah.
If it does any fraction of what we believe it will do, it's
Yep.
going to be worth a lot more, and you're going to eventually, it's going to be worth so much that you'll
Yeah.
stop even denominating it in other currencies. It will be the denominator, and you'll
Mhm.
denominate all your goods and services in Bitcoin, and then
Mhm.
you won't even be like, oh, well, this thing's worth $1 million or $100
Yep.
million or whatever. You just, no, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin at that point.
Yep.
And that's
Yep.
that's the future I see with Bitcoin.
Right, right, right. Yeah, that's fair. What was it? So like, for holding Bitcoin like long term, so your channel name is, I mean, you go by Forrest Hutto, I go by Nurse Huddle. So we both clearly know, we just gotta hold on to dear life. Like, how do you go about like telling those people, hey man, like this is not a, buy low, sell high type of deal. This is like, buy it and you hold it, or do you just like kind of just let people just figure it out over time? Is that something that you care about telling
Yeah.
others, or?
Yeah, it is. So what I do is, we have this really beautiful stat within
Mhm.
Bitcoin where we can say that nobody has ever lost money holding Bitcoin for 4 years. Any
Mhm.
4 year period you look at, you'll be up on Bitcoin. Any
Yep.
single 4 year period, with the highs, the crazy lows, all of that.
Yeah.
4 years, if you hold
Yeah.
Bitcoin, you're guaranteed to profit. I mean, you can't say that you guarantee, right?
Right.
All of that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
historically, you can
Mhm.
you can map that out and say, okay, well, that's baked in. That's
Yep.
100% accurate historically. So
Mhm.
it likely will be accurate in the future, right?
Right. Right.
Past
Right.
performance is not indicative of future results. However,
Yep.
that's what we have as far as information. So that's
Oh
kind of
yeah.
what I tell people, right? Is I tell people, if you buy this, I'm beginning to educate you, like my friends, my family. I educate them whatever they're interested in, and eventually they're okay. I'm ready to buy some. I want to buy some. What do I do? I
Yep.
start to say, okay, if you buy some, hold it for the long term, and
Mhm.
really the long term is multiple years. I tell them that stat, 4 years, and then that really puts in their mind, okay, this isn't a short term thing.
Mhm.
And then it's up to them, right? Of course, they might
Yep.
sell it. They might go up a
Yep.
bunch. They might sell it. It might go down a bunch. They might get freaked out. They might sell it.
Yep.
Whatever. That's
Yeah.
their journey. What can I do
Yep.
about it? But I just tell them, hold it for 4 years. We're so early to this. 4 years later, it's going to be such a huge amount of your net worth, depending on how much you put in or whatever, or however it
Right.
grows, that you're going to care a lot more about it. And you're really going to start asking yourself, what is this thing? And then they're
Mhm.
naturally going to orange pill themselves, and my work there is done.
Right, right, right. That's fair. The actually, on that note, actually, I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you've seen the video of Jeff Booth saying that, if Bitcoin fails as a, what is it, unit of, what
Medium
did we
of
say?
exchange.
Media of exchange, yeah, it will not be used at all. I guess it will fail. What's your opinion about that? Because in my head, I'm thinking like, for example, we've used houses. I mean, obviously, gold and all these other things, they have been used as, store of value, right? So like if they were not, like, we don't use houses as, medium exchange. We don't use gold as medium exchange. Like, so, but those two, they lasted, they've done pretty well as a store of value. Like, what do you think about Bitcoin being as a store of value? Like, do you think that if it's like, let's say 2140, and we still, I mean, I'm sure by that time we'll probably be using Bitcoin as like a, medium of exchange, but like if it takes too long to happen, do you think Bitcoin will fail?
Okay, so this is really interesting. This gets into some of the technical side of Bitcoin. So in my opinion, technically, if Bitcoin does not become a medium of exchange, it does fail technically. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason for that is because it's not just the Bitcoin you hold in your wallet. There's also the
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin network, and the Bitcoin network needs to be supported by people interacting and sending Bitcoin to
Mm-hmm.
each other at a certain point. So
Mm-hmm.
right now, I mean, you know this, but I'll tell this for my audience. There's a block subsidy. So every single block that gets mined is full of transactions of people sending Bitcoin, but the vast majority of the reward that the miners get for putting up their hash rate is something called a block subsidy, which is actually new Bitcoin being mined. And the
Yep.
date you mentioned there, 2140 or 2136, that's when all the Bitcoin is mined. So then the Bitcoin miners are only given the transaction fees, which is a small percentage of what they're given now, right? They're given
Yep.
minor or transaction fees, but it's a small percentage of the total value that they make for participating in the Bitcoin network and protecting it. So if Bitcoin only goes as a store of value and people are not interacting with it on chain to some degree, and how that develops will look different depending on the technology that's built on top and the use case and the people interacting with Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
But if that doesn't happen enough, then there isn't enough incentive for Bitcoin miners to put their hash rate towards the network. And if the hash rate dropped to such a low level, there could be the ability for someone to attack the network, do a 51% attack. So they would all of a sudden put a huge amount of hash rate towards the Bitcoin network. They would
Mm-hmm.
send transactions within there and create the longest chain. And basically those transactions would be fake and everybody would go on to this chain that they've created, and sending value where there's no value actually to be had. So
Yep.
that part really needs to be protected. And the way it's protected is through the natural incentive of Bitcoin miners getting paid, and for anybody to get paid a certain rate
Yep.
for, on average, for participating and putting their compute power into the
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin network. So
Yep.
how that looks in the future, there might be super cheap free energy. And even if the block subsidy is really low, even if only some people are using the Bitcoin network, it might still make sense to put your hash rate towards there, because we have something like cold fusion energy, or
Mm-hmm.
what is the law, the compute power law,
Uh-huh.
progressing. Yeah, that could increase so much that compute power is really easy to come by.
Yep.
In my opinion, though, we will see the way money develops is it first has to go through a store of value phase, which is what we're in now, and it has to naturally move into a medium of exchange. So we've seen other cryptos out there try to jump the store of value phase,
Mm-hmm.
and that leads to massive centralization of consensus and problems within the network itself, from being too fast. And basically, it just doesn't work to skip the store of value phase, because nobody wants to hold money that doesn't hold its value.
Yeah.
So it needs to store its value for there to be demand for it to be used as a medium of exchange.
Yep.
So to further explain this, I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but
Oh yeah. I mean, we got time, man. We got
okay.
time.
Okay. So there's two laws I want to talk about, and these are theoretical laws, but one of them is called Gresham's law, which is that uh, bad money pushes out good money.
Yep.
So this is the concept of what happened when we used coinage, right? Back before 64, the U.S. quarters had an amount of silver in them, and After that, there wasn't any silver in them. So what you would see was people would actually, when they received a quarter with silver in it, they would actually take that out of circulation, because that quarter was actually worth more than 25 cents in its silver amount. And then they would, because somebody else was willing to accept the quarter that didn't have silver in it, the newly minted quarters, they would spend that quarter. So that's the bad money. So right now what we have is we have people saving the good money, which is not the silver quarter, but instead it's Bitcoin, which stores its value better than fiat, fiat is the bad money. So people are still willing to accept fiat. So you're willing to spend it because you don't care as much about it, and you rather save in the good money. Then there's the opposite law, which is Thayer's law, which good money pushes out bad money. And the way that happens is on the other side of it, where people start to say, hey, this quarter that doesn't have any silver in it, I don't think that's actually worth anything. Or that fiat paper dollar isn't actually worth anything to me. I want the good money. I want the real silver quarter. I want the Bitcoin. So it comes from the opposite side. It comes from merchants and people selling a service demanding Bitcoin in payment, because to them, that's what they actually believe has value. So I think we're currently in Gresham's law. We will move towards Thayer's law, and that just happens naturally over time, and will take it could take all the way up until 2130. It could take that long, but it will be a gradual thing. And you can check out btcmap.org. I think it's merchant adoption of Bitcoin. It's growing. There's more and more people wanting Bitcoin, and it can happen kind of gradually as well, where people will offer a discount in Bitcoin, or you can think of it as a premium in fiat. So that incentivizes people to spend the good money and moves us towards the direction of going into Thayer's law.
Yeah, see. Do you think like government adoption can make that transition happen faster, or do you think if government, let's say government says, I mean, obviously people are like, most countries now are like starting to adopt Bitcoin more, but let's say they are like against it. Do you think Bitcoin may not succeed, or do you think people among themselves will still somehow find a way into using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, for example?
Yeah, this is so interesting. This gets into a bit of game theory, right? So you can think about there's an example. There's two different things I want to talk about with this. The first one is the example of Nigeria, where there's actually a premium on Bitcoin because the Nigerian government has been so anti Bitcoin and crypto. So the way they've done that is through regulation. So they've kicked out crypto exchanges, and they've made it illegal or very difficult for fiat banks within the country to send payment to a crypto exchange. So even though with that, right, there's been all this overhead regulation and all that, what that's done is that has shown how valuable Bitcoin and crypto is. That's been a huge, probably awakening for the people in Nigeria. And so in Nigeria, they actually have a huge amount of Bitcoin adoption in comparison to other countries, even with that regulation. And I would say it's because of that regulation and that trying to stomp out Bitcoin and crypto usage. And the way they do that is it's much more peer-to-peer. They'll accept it, they'll send it, they'll demand it, they'll kind of do stuff like that. And then through remittances, so they can get around having to even use fiat rails if they do work remotely for people around the world and they accept Bitcoin or crypto in payment. And luckily, it's a global asset that can't be stopped. Specifically with Bitcoin, it's very permissionless. So, it makes a lot of sense for this cross-border payment, and through remittances get paid in this. And then it has a premium. So then they can go and spend it and send it to their friends peer-to-peer easily without permission and against the regulation of their government. So I think that the other thing that happens with this is there's probably, this is speculation, but I can imagine within that there's been people, like there's companies probably within Nigeria, crypto startups, Bitcoin startups that probably just said, this isn't going to work here. We're getting stopped by the government too much. We need to leave. And so
Yep.
there's that kind of other thing that happens too. They are literally pushing that industry away from their country. It's getting adopted grassroots, but the industry, the businesses that get formed around it, which could lead to tax revenue and could lead to prosperity for their nation, gets pushed out to other countries that are friendly to this stuff. So there's game theory that plays out there where it actually becomes an incentive for governments. The Overton window shifts for what's popular, and it becomes an incentive for governments to allow this and to have really strong regulation that is good for business within these industries. So we can see that with in America, right? They're very pro crypto. The crypto AI czar, the Bitcoin holders within the government, all this stuff, right? And so what that's going to do is that's going to bring a lot of capital flow into that industry within America. A lot of people might even migrate there or move there for business, all this, and that creates prosperity. So there's a lot there, but I mean, you lose out as a government from trying to stomp this out.
Oh yeah. How's the adoption over there in Canada, actually?
The adoption's pretty interesting. If you look at it statistically, it's not the highest or anything like that, but if you look at merchant adoption, there's this company Coinos, which is just two guys in Vancouver, and they have onboarded so many merchants. Vancouver actually has more merchant adoption than than any other city in North America. They have the most people accepting Bitcoin. So there's a lot of great Bitcoiners out of Canada, personally. I think there's a lot of people still really in the fiat mindset. A lot of people that really believe mainstream media narratives around Bitcoin being for criminals and all this nonsense, and scams related to it. And that's the first time they heard about it, so that's all they associate with it, and they believe what they're told. And there's a lot of authority bias amongst Canadians and stuff like that. So I think that has maybe stifled some of the more mainstream adoption of Bitcoin. But outside of that, there's these really strong, smart Bitcoiners and Bitcoin businesses within Canada. It's a great place to be a Bitcoiner, in my opinion. And I think people will eventually wake up to it.
Oh yeah, that's good. You know what? I just realized I've been learning a lot about Bitcoin from a lot of Canadians, actually. You and the guys from what is it, Maple? Is it Maple Bitcoin? Yes, Maple Bitcoin, and then also like Jeff Booth and all that. I'm like, wait, how come all you guys are Canadian, man? What am I missing there, yo?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of great Bitcoiners here in Canada.
Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And you know how like we like, so like people, we all drive cars, but like maybe it's more percentage of us know how to like do an oil change, for example. Do you think like people will need to understand Bitcoin in order to use it, or you think that adoption will just happen in the background, like they'll just eventually use it because that's just what we do now? What do you think about that?
That's a great question, man. That's a good analogy with the cars. People go deeper into a subject of understanding it and actually utilizing the tool of it. I think there's going to be a big spectrum of understanding. I think Bitcoin will end up being sort of the back end financial rails for everything, and a lot of people will be exposed to Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin, use Bitcoin without even really knowing what Bitcoin is. It's just what people are wanting to accept as payment. So the UIs will get so streamlined, like the user interfaces, and so streamlined, it's so easy that people can just use it really simply. Already with Lightning, it's very easy, but people are still resistant to it for some reason. So I think that there's going to be a lot of usage of Bitcoin like that, like through a varying degree of knowledge. And I think that there is a risk there, right? If you don't know enough about it, if you're not taking self-custody, there is the risk of paper Bitcoin, of rehypothecation of Bitcoin, not showing proof of reserves, or not being able to validate the transactions. All of that is intrinsic to what makes Bitcoin so powerful. And if people don't learn about that, then there's the opportunity for bad actors to potentially try to create fiat games, even using Bitcoin, right? So I think that will all get worked out. It's just going to take more and more time. It's going to take more FTX type
Oh yeah.
explosions, more Celsius lending yield products, all this stuff. It's just going to take more and more of these things happen before it becomes easier and more necessary to
Yep.
really understand what Bitcoin is.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Where do you see Bitcoin in like the next, man? That's 5 to 10 years ish. Like, where do you see? I mean, not just price, but also as far as like adoption as well. Like, what do you see
Hmm.
if you had to
Yeah.
like take a guess?
Yeah, it's a hard one, it's
Yeah,
really hard to speculate. I
yeah,
will be wrong with my speculation, of course,
yeah.
and I expect that.
Yep.
It's going to be higher price
Yep.
wise. That
Yep.
I probably won't be wrong on.
Yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
that seems easy to me.
Yeah.
How much higher? I don't know.
Yeah.
And with merchant adoption, I think we'll just see more and more of it. We're going to see more and more people talking about it. I just moved to a new town not that long
Mm.
ago, started a Bitcoin meetup. The first Bitcoin meetup, we had 3 people. The next one, we had 8. The next one, we had 9. And these
Nice.
were different people at each one, right? And it's
Yeah.
just, I live in a small town. And I just think more and more people are going to understand the problems with fiat. We're going to have more big print of type events, more
Mm.
stimulus, more fiat, more
Yep.
debasement, higher
Yep.
cost of living, more and more
Yep.
problems. And more people are going to say, how do I fix this problem of that they don't realize maybe at the time is
Yeah.
monetary debasement? How do I solve this? And
Yep.
the way you solve it is taking personal responsibility for it and protecting yourself from it, because you're not going to be able to change the money printer on your own. You're not going to be able to stop central banking, but you can step outside of that. And if enough of us do that, there's going to be a boiling point where it boils over, and there's enough people for everyone to know, hey, I know a Bitcoiner. My brother's a Bitcoiner. My sister's a
Yeah.
Bitcoiner. They've been telling me that this has been a problem forever. I can now see this problem, and now I can talk to this person directly that I trust and that has benefited from it. I've seen years of them being able to go on vacation, be able to quit their job or
Mhm.
work however they want or whatever, right?
Yeah.
As we see more and more of that, we're just going to see this network grow and expand. It's the stickiest network. So
Yeah.
Bitcoin is a network of ideas and of people. Ultimately, it's a network of people. And once you go down the rabbit hole of understanding fiat and understanding Bitcoin, really, truly, the understanding everything about it or enough about it, you can't go back. Like
Yeah. It's
you and I, like
impossible. Yeah.
we couldn't go back. We couldn't just be like, yeah, forget this Bitcoin thing. I'm
Oh
going to
yeah.
sell it
God
all.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just impossible. It's
Yeah.
impossible. It's the
Yeah.
stickiest idea. And so with that, right, if it's a spreadable idea, and it's a difficult idea to spread because it's complex,
Mhm.
but as the problem that it solves becomes more and more obvious, it becomes easier to spread the idea. And because it's such a sticky idea, that network effect is going to grow really really
Yeah.
fast and really
Oh yeah.
stable.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Do you think it's like if I think like you know how sometimes people say Bitcoin is like it's either like an ego test or if it's an IQ test. Like I think like the need to know aspect of it is actually more important than being smart or being, I don't know, egotistic or whatever. I think like until you have like that, like, I don't know, you feel the pain of inflation. You feel the pain of like, okay, why is it that I'm working more, but somehow I'm just like, wait, why is the price of eggs keep going up? Like what's going on? Why can't I afford a house? Like for example, me and my wife, we're both nurses, and I'm like, and I was just sitting down one day, I'm like, wait, we're both nurses, but somehow we like if we were to buy a house, we would literally go into debt and be miserable. And I was thinking like, okay, I need to do more research about like do you think like we would need like another, I think COVID for me actually like opened my eyes more like that, I mean not exactly right after that mini big print, but like, oh, it wasn't mini but like that little that spike in the M2 money supply, but like after that I think I realized that okay, something is wrong. Do you think we would need another big print? I don't know if you've read the book from Larry, the big print. Actually, do you think we need another event like that to like wake more people up, or do you think like it's just gonna be like a slowly but surely type of thing? Like,
Yeah.
what do you think as far as like adoption, of course? Yeah.
Well, the accelerationist in me wants more
Mhm.
pain, because more
Yeah.
obvious pain, more
Yeah.
sudden pain, because then people will wake up. Like,
Yeah.
you're not alone there with COVID money printing being such an obvious such an obvious sign. There's the problem of, you could be standing in quicksand, and because you're sinking so slowly, you don't even recognize you're sinking, so you don't feel any urgency to move out of get away from that quicksand, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we've been a part of with this fiat system. We're being bled. You're not, you
Mhm.
look back 10, 20, 30, 40 years, two people working as nurses would be able, much more suited and more able to improve their life with with goods, right? Like buying a house would be much easier, all this kind of stuff. And that's
Mm.
because that's less noticeable day to day or week to week or year to year. But you look back a bunch of years and you can tell how obvious that is. But it's really like we're being slowly bled by this fiat system. And that is the worst way, in my opinion, because they're able to extract the most amount of life force and energy and time and value out of people by printing money for the longest amount of time. Whereas if you see a hyperinflation event happen, like in Zimbabwe or even what's happening in Argentina, you see mass
Yeah.
adoption of other stores of value that are not correlated and connected to the central bank fiat currency, whether that is Bitcoin or not. Whether that's gold or even foods, stock, supplies, like all these
Yeah.
kind of things, right, become stores of value because the fiat system is so broken.
Yeah.
So it really wakes people up a lot. So, there's a part of me, the accelerationist, that I think, okay, well, things probably should get worse, and I hope they get worse fast, because
Yeah.
people need to wake up to this. And of
Yeah.
course, the other compassionate part of me that says, I don't want things to get worse. I don't want things to, I don't want to see all the savers out there who thought they were doing the right thing get all of their value and all of their energy and time and effort that they put into working to create that value get eroded and erased over time. I don't want that to happen to those people. So it's
Yeah.
a very tough thing. And I don't know what's better or worse, but I do kind of think the slow bleed out is worse overall. It's just not as painful. It's more duration of pain, but it's
Yeah.
not as painful immediately or as close
Yeah.
together.
Nah, I agree. I agree. Nah, no, that yeah, it is a tough one, man. I know. I feel the same way, honestly. I'm like, I mean, I do want, like, if some sovereign wealth fund was like, oh, I'm buying all this Bitcoin, and then price goes up, but at the same time, it's like, man, I know so many people who are like not into Bitcoin. I'm like, hey, like, yo, get some, man. Save yourself. Like, save yourself. Come on, man. Like, So I feel that. Nah, I feel that. Yeah. But like, other than like the number go up technology though, like, what else has like Bitcoin changed for you overall, would you say?
It's one thing that it's done for me, and the reason that I started my Bitcoin channel was because I felt like it actually rewired and changed the way I was. There's
Yeah.
this saying within Bitcoin that Bitcoin is hope.
Mhm.
Before Bitcoin, I told you my story about how I knew something was wrong. I didn't really save money. I didn't work. I tried to just live in the moment, tried to travel, enjoy myself, build a business outside of it. All of that was trying to escape from this system that I believed was flawed. I didn't know why, but part of that as well was nihilistic, right? I didn't see any benefit from working my way up a corporate ladder. I didn't feel like that was a worthy life to live. I didn't feel like that was something I wanted to do. So there was a lot of pessimism. There was a lot of nihilism, right? I was maybe didn't take the black pill, but maybe I was about to, or close to it, right? Like that,
Yeah.
um, and I have friends out there who have been very nihilistic in their life, and the cure to nihilism is hope in something, is believing in some sort of future, right? People often turn to all sorts of different faith-based belief systems because at their darkest time because they need something to believe in, right? And so that's what Bitcoin was able to do for me. And I mean, that's why people conflate it and say, oh, this is kind of a cult or something like that. But
Yeah.
it really, what it does, all it does simply in that way is it lowers your time preference. So instead of being nihilistic, living in the moment, but just for pleasure, or just or like not thinking ahead because you don't really believe in the future and all this, you start recognizing, hey, I actually have this thing that's going to preserve my time and energy. It makes it worth me doing something right now, providing value to acquire this value, and then it will grow in time, in purchasing power, and I can see myself in the future being better off and living a life that is more connected to how I want to live because of this thing called Bitcoin. And it really gives you hope, and it lowers your time preference, so you can wait longer to fulfill your needs, right? You can offset, you can divert some of your current needs and push those further out, which is a powerful thing. It's really profound as like personal development tool. Bitcoin has like taught me a lot about how a better way to live in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think it's the same way for me. Like, as far as like, I guess, like, do I really want to buy this thing? I don't think I buy unnecessary stuff anymore. Like, I'll spend my money on like things that can give me a return, or something that's gonna be healthier, I guess, for me. Like, I don't mind spending a lot of money on food, but I would not spend money on like useless stuff, I guess, So yeah, that I feel that. And last question for you, man. Like, if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Simple one, of course, is buy Bitcoin.
Yep, I think that goes for the both of us, man.
Yeah. No, buy. Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's
Yeah,
such an easy one, but
yeah,
I don't know. I don't have a bunch of regrets. I mean, obviously,
yeah,
I didn't buy Bitcoin but instead of buying Bitcoin when I really had the opportunity to,
yeah.
I invested in myself still. I still built a business. I still still invested in myself and believed in myself. And that pushed me away from working for somebody else and working for myself, and creating content that I believed was powerful, films and stuff that I hoped would change people's perception on the world, all this kind of stuff. So I don't really regret that. And I don't know. I don't know what I would tell myself. Besides buy a little Bitcoin, have some Bitcoin, right?
Yep.
I think the best thing, not even buy Bitcoin, I would tell them to save in Bitcoin, because there were times where I had these emergency funds of cash on the side, and it was all in dollars. And I just, now all I do is I save in Bitcoin, and that's changed everything. So that's the difference.
I agree. I think the term buy Bitcoin is like, I've been switching that a lot to like saving Bitcoin instead. No, it's not like something that I'm buying and plan on just selling anytime soon. It's like, hey, this is like my actual savings account now. Like, so I like that term. But hey, man, where can people find you, man?
You can find me on my YouTube channel. It's called Bitcoin Not Crypto. And then I'm 1/3 of Maple Bitcoin as well, with my friends Jor and Rajat. So that's the other channel, Maple Bitcoin. You can find me on X and Noster at Forrest Hutto, HODL. And that's about it.
Perfect. I'll put those links in the description. And man, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, man. This is my first podcast ever, so thank you for being the first guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Man.
Thanks.
Oh yeah, and I'll see you on Wednesday for the
Yes.
live stream, probably. Yeah.
Cool. See you then.
Man. Yeah, see you then, man.